Hello everyone, welcome you to TeckLearn. In this session we will discuss few important questions that are frequently asked in Java interviews. So let's get started. 1. Differentiate abstraction and encapsulation. Abstraction solves the problem at design level, whereas encapsulation solves the problem at the implementation level. Abstraction lets us to focus on what the object does instead of how it does it, whereas encapsulation hides internal details or mechanics of how an object does something. Abstraction is used to hide the unnecessary details but shows the essential information, whereas encapsulation binds the code and data into a single entity or unit so that the data can be protected from the outside world. Abstraction deals with exposing the interface to the user and hiding the details of implementation, whereas encapsulation groups data and methods together that acts upon the data. Abstraction is detail hiding or implementation hiding, whereas encapsulation is data hiding or information hiding. Example for abstraction is outlook of an ATM to draw money, whereas example for encapsulation is internal information of the customer with respect to account details, available balance etc. 2. Differentiate final and immutable. Final is a modifier which is used for classes, methods and variables. When a variable is declared with final keyboard, its value cannot be changed or modified, whereas immutable means that the content of an object is unable to be changed over time once created. Final is not applicable for the objects, whereas immutable is not applicable for classes, methods or variables. Example for final is final student method, final class car, final string uname, whereas example for immutable is string, big decimal. 3. What is synchronization in multi-threading? Synchronization is used to protect access to resources that are needed to be accessed concurrently or in parallel. Multi-threading is very useful in an application for many situations in which multiple threads shares common objects, so that each thread will be executed asynchronously. In some scenarios, if in a table you might not want one thread to be updating a database record while another thread is trying to read it. In this type of cases, we need to ensure that resource will be used by only one thread at a time. Otherwise, two or more threads could access the same resource at a time, each unaware of the other thread's actions. Multiple threads are synchronized by synchronized methods and synchronized blocks. Synchronized method. It is used to lock an object's access to the current thread and will be released only once the thread finishes its execution. Syntax for this is as shown below. Next is synchronized block. It is used in case if we want to synchronize only some specific lines of code, lock will be acquired on the specified lines. The object will be sent as a parameter. Syntax for this is as shown below. Next question is: difference between static and dynamic binding. Static binding, in this type of binding compiler will resolve the method and its code at compile time, whereas, in dynamic binding, the compiler will resolve the method and its code at runtime. In static binding, binding happens before running the program, whereas, in dynamic binding, binding occurs during runtime. In static binding, private, final and static methods use static binding because they cannot be overridden, whereas, in dynamic binding, the methods other than private, final and static methods use dynamic binding because they can be overridden. Static binding is also called as early binding, whereas dynamic binding is also called as late binding. Example for static binding is method overloading, whereas example for dynamic binding is method overriding. 5. Can we have multiple public classes in a Java source file? No, we can't have more than one public class in a single Java source file, but a single source file can have multiple classes that are not public. 6. Can an interface implement or extend another interface? The answer is, interfaces don't implement another interface but they extend it. As interfaces can't have method implementations, there is no issue of diamond problem. Hence we have multiple inheritances in interfaces, that is, an interface can extend multiple interfaces. From Java 8 onwards, interfaces can have default method implementations to handle diamond problem. When a common default method is present in multiple interfaces, it is mandatory to provide implementation of the method in the class which is implementing them. Our next question is, what is a marker interface? Our interface is said to be marker interface when it doesn't have any method in it but is used to force some functionality in implementing classes by Java. Some of the well-known marker interfaces are serializable and clonable interfaces. 8. What is serialization and deserialization? Serialization allows us to convert the state of an object into a byte stream, which then can be saved into a file on local disk or sent over the network to any other machine. An example for serialization is given below. Deserialization is the reverse process of serialization, that is, reconverting of serialized byte stream into an object. An example for deserialization is given below. 9. When do we use break and continue? Break statement is mainly used in two cases, such as, one is, it quits the loop and jumps out of it in both for and while loop. The another case is, break statement exits a case in the switch statement. The continue statement in Java is commonly used for the following cases. First case is, it skips the following statements and moves to the next iteration in the for loop. Next case is, continue in while loops hop the following statements and jump to the conditional statement. Our last question is, differentiate this and super keyword. This is a reference variable that refers to the current class instance variable, whereas super is a reference variable used to refer immediate parent class instance variable. This can be used to invoke methods of the current class, whereas super can be used to invoke immediate parent class methods from the subclass. This keyword is used to call another constructor from within a constructor of current class, whereas super keyword is used to call the superclass's constructor from within a constructor of the subclass. JVM never adds this keyword automatically, whereas JVM adds the super keyword automatically at first line inside the constructor. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe TeckLearn for more such videos.